Welcome to the Adhvaitha Decoding Reality podcast. Today I will talk about the mystery of gross and the subtle. We will understand how every aspect of this existence is consciousness alone. But before we go there, we need to understand the fundamental premise of Advaita Vedanta. As per Advaita, entire universe is consciousness and consciousness alone. So this fundamental consciousness is manipulated in infinite ways to get the universe that we see here. But fundamentally, the truth of this existence is consciousness alone. There are two steps in understanding this. Step one is we need to look at our own experience and look at ourselves and understand that all of this experience that we are having with this universe is happening within our consciousness. So if you look at how you are experiencing this video, first of all, your eyes are looking at this video and then your mind is interpreting the signals that are given to it by the eyes. But at the same time, your mind is being experienced by your consciousness. So fundamentally, all of this is happening within your consciousness. This is step one. And step two is a little bit complicated. In step two or stage two, we need to realize that all that is appearing outside as the external universe is also consciousness alone, because consciousness is the only thing that truly exists in this existence. So Advaita literally means non-dualism, which means that there is only one true existence in this universe, and that truth, that existence is consciousness. This consciousness, we may choose to call it God, or if you're not comfortable with the word God, you can choose to call it consciousness. Now coming to the concept of subtle and the gross, imagine a range, right? Starting from God, which is the most subtle, to the physical body or physical existence, which is the least subtle. So the physical existence is the grossest and the least subtle thing that exists, and God or consciousness is the most subtle thing that exists. What we need to realize is that the subtle is always more powerful than the gross. We will understand this concept with a lot of examples in this video. So basically, whatever is subtle is always more powerful than what is gross. So God being the most subtle is the most powerful, whereas the physical body or the physical existence being the least subtle is the least powerful. So there will come a lot of things in between these two. Now, if we look at this entire universe and this existence with this framework, it will start to make a lot of sense. Now, let us look at some examples to understand this concept. First, let's talk about the five elements. Vedanta says that the five elements, which are the space, air, fire, water and earth, together form this entire physical universe. These five elements again come from each other. It is said that the earth comes from water, water from fire, fire from air and all the other elements come from space itself. So if we look at these five elements, space or Akash is the most subtle and is the least gross, and hence it is the most powerful. If you look at this physical universe itself, most of the existence is just empty space. But this space somehow holds this entire physical universe in place. So this is the power of space element. Now let's look at another example, which is personality. So Lord Krishna talks about the three personalities or character types in Bhagavad Gita. He talks about Satvik, Rajasic and Tamasic. So these three are a particular type of personalities that different people have. A Sattvic personality is associated with purity and knowledge. A Rajasic personality is associated with attachment and passion, whereas a Tamasic personality is associated with dullness and ignorance. So even within these personality traits, Sattvic personality is the most subtle personality. Hence it is more closer to consciousness and hence it is more powerful and more good. And Tamasic is the least subtle and the grosser of all personalities, and hence it is least pure and it is farther from pure consciousness. So there are a lot of examples that we can look at. If we look at anything in this universe with this framework of the subtle and the gross, we will get a profound understanding with respect to which is more closer to truth, which is more closer to consciousness, and which is farther from truth. So now if you look at the body mind itself, mind is obviously subtler than the body, but mind itself controls the body in many ways. Mind has a lot of power over the body, even though body looks more physical and grosser. And Swami Vivekananda gives an example in one of his speeches. He talks about nervous system and the muscles within our body. Our muscles may look like they are stronger and they control this body, right? But the nervous system, which is much more subtle compared to the muscular system, is actually much more powerful than the muscular system. Because if one tiny nerve stops working, then an entire body part might stop functioning, which tells us that the nervous system is much more powerful and is much more important than the muscular system. So in this way, we can look at different things in this existence. If we look at the food that we eat, the vegetarian food is obviously subtler than the non-vegetarian food, and hence it is closer to purity and consciousness. This doesn't mean that people who eat non-vegetarian food cannot be spiritual, but it just tells us that the sattvic food or vegetarian food is much more suitable for a spiritual seeker because it keeps our system in a certain way. Now, like I said before, Adhvaitha tells us that everything appears in consciousness and consciousness alone exists, and hence non-dualism is the truth of existence. And this consciousness is the most subtle thing that exists, and hence it is the most powerful thing. So people call it God. This God is called as Brahman in Vedanta, and everything else that we see on this planet is just an infinite modulation and an infinite manifestation of that one consciousness. And I hope you have understood this concept of the subtle and the gross, and how the consciousness being the most subtle thing in this existence has manifested itself in infinite ways and in infinite dimensions to appear as different gross elements. But since everything comes from that fundamental consciousness, which is the most subtle thing, it is the most powerful thing.